who will be speaking next. And it's my pleasure to introduce Ms. Stephanie K. Richard, Esquire, Policy and Legal Services Director of the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, CAST, where it provides direct legal services to survivors of human trafficking and technical consultation on human trafficking cases nationwide. CAST, a Los Angeles-based NGO with international and domestic programming, is the longest-running and largest anti-slavery organization in the U.S., the first to advocate for laws to protect victims, and is known for opening the first shelter for trafficked women and their children in the United States. CAST is one of the small grant recipients of the Voluntary Trust Fund and has provided comprehensive legal services to empower over 90 trafficking survivors in California. Ms. Richard, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for having me today. Again, my name is Stephanie Richard, and I'm the Policy and Legal Services Director at CAST. In my role as the Legal Services Director, I am daily in the trenches with law enforcement partners, social service providers, as well as survivors themselves, trying to create systemic as well as change for one individual at a time. CAST is one of the largest social and legal services agencies in the United States, exclusively serving survivors of modern-day slavery. Our clients come from 59 countries around the world, including the U.S. They are men, women, and children forced to labor against their will in diverse circumstances, including commercial sexual exploitation. I would like to thank the UN Voluntary Trust Fund for supporting CAST's model legal program. Many times the focus is solely on social services and shelter. I commend you for recognizing that there are critical needs for legal services for survivors of modern slavery. Legal survivors to assert rights, seek legal remedies, and decide for themselves how they wish to seek justice. The objectives of CAST's legal program are to provide comprehensive legal services to empower survivors of trafficking and to build the capacity of firms and other legal organizations to provide similar services. CAST practices somatic lawyering, which is a holistic approach to empowering survivors. We begin with a comprehensive legal assessment that includes family law issues, protective orders, criminal victim witness advocacy, civil remedies, accessing public benefits, accessing immigration remedies, and expunging criminal records. We believe that survivors must address these issues in order to rebuild their lives. Every day, CAST legal team strives to empower survivors to reach their own goals that they have stated. For some survivors, this means using their direct knowledge of human trafficking to inform creative solutions for social change. For example, Angela was lured from the Philippines to the U.S. through false promises of a good job, only to become enslaved at an elder care facility here in Los Angeles. Through CAST's leadership program, Angela now regularly meets with policymakers and advocates for the regulation of foreign labor recruiters in California. The journey from victim to empowered survivor requires hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of legal services. Because our legal services are long-term and comprehensive, CAST partners with over 40 pro bono law firms and other legal providers. Our legal team carefully evaluates and provides ongoing technical consult for each and every case that we place. Specialized service providers like CAST are necessary to train other legal organizations and support pro bono placement. CAST's collaborative model has a dramatic impact on both individuals and systems. For example, as you may be aware, the U.S. is facing a crisis involving Central American children fleeing violence and traveling to the U.S. border. For example, CAST served Martin, who, when he was 16, fled gang violence in El Salvador, only to be beaten and captured by a gang in Mexico. Under extreme violence, Martin was forced to pack and cultivate drugs in Mexico, and when he refused, he saw his friend shot in front of him and burned to death in a garbage can while he watched. Martin was then ordered to take the drugs across the U.S. border, and while he was in that process, he found an opportunity to flee and ran to our border protection for support. Border officials arrested Martin for drug trafficking. Thankfully, a legal service partner who'd been trained by CAST alerted us, and we identified Martin as a victim of human trafficking, secured a letter of benefits from the Office of Refugee Resettlement here, and helped him report his crime to federal law enforcement. Partnerships and trainings are necessary to correctly identify children like Martin as victims and stop the violence against them. The U.S. still has a long way to go in correctly identifying victims, including those who are U.S. citizens. For example, Sarah was trafficked at the age of 12 by a violent pimp. He controlled her every move. She had been arrested 20 times before the age of 17. She was treated as a criminal until Cass correctly identified her as a victim and provided her necessary services. To address this problem of misidentification, Cass collaborates closely with the juvenile justice system, prosecutors, public defenders, and legislators to train personnel to recognize human trafficking, to ensure that victims are not prosecuted for crimes they were forced to commit, and to change systems that re-traumatize victims. These changes are critical as the identification of modern-day slavery grows here in the U.S. and around the world. Last year alone, Cass Legal Program served over 256 survivors and their family members. This is an increase of 50% from just the last 2 years. We currently have a waiting list which at its point had 42 individuals. How do you waitlist a person in crisis? My understanding is that there is very limited to no UN funds that are available at this time, so I plead to you on behalf of all the organizations like myself and around the world who have benefited from these funds, that you will give generously to this very, very necessary fund. Survivors like Angela, Martin, and Sarah need our help. The UN support could mean the difference between slavery and freedom. Let me close with a few words from another survivor. Being trafficked was the worst experience of my life, but Cass has renewed my trust in other people. Now I'm working and going to school. I hope others learn from my experience and can find justice too. There is hope. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you today.
Stephanie, for making great use of the funds that the Trust Fund has provided you. We're very grateful for all your efforts. And now,